Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Hello, everybody. It's Carl Lee. I'm your host of the podcast, Let's Talk. Let's Talk is about an opportunity to just have some freedom to talk about different things around sports, culture, and social issues. I have, as my guest today, I got Hollis Lewis on one side, and I got Wade Murray on the other side. Gentlemen, today, I welcome you on the show, but today, what I want to get into talking about culture, the culture around sports. Hollis, you and I had talked a little bit earlier about it. I've had some other conversations about it. I think that when I think about where we are in culture, okay, I feel like culture has to do with discipline, right? Am I wrong? When you think culture, when you think about it, Hollis, tell me what you think about when you just hear the word culture. What does that mean to you?
When I hear culture, I just think about traditions, values, rites of passage, those things that we do on a regular basis. Those things, our music, or the food we eat, how we do what it is that, whatever we do. So that's what I think about.
Same for you, Wade?
I think for me, culture, and again, thank you for having me on. For me, culture is what you represent. I think, with culture has been thrown around so much. You got your pop culture, your rap culture, you got NBA's even a culture, right? And then you have your nationality, whatever.
Sports,
things like that. And so I think culture is truly like, morals, values, principles, what you will stand for. And what you will, want to help people with.
Okay, so inside of that culture, when I think about culture, it for me it becomes part of the discipline, part of the work ethic.
You're talking about in reference to sports, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, in reference to sports. When I think about a culture, when I think about it as a coach, when I'm coaching a team, part of that culture needs to be discipline. Needs to be work ethic and those kinds of things. And today's show, I think that we could have a good fight, because I'm looking at today's structure, its culture, and I feel like it's fading away. And some of the leadership of that in sports. They're not showing us what it looks like. I think, and I'm interested to see what both of you guys say, I think the core principle for structure is discipline. It is discipline, because everything else works off of that. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong?
I would say,
because nobody wants it. Nobody wants that discipline.
No, see, I would say people do want discipline, but I don't think I would beg to differ. Like, I don't think it necessarily has to be a foundational principle. I think it has to be within the guidelines that you set forth. It has to be guidelines within that. So if we're talking about sports, it has to be parameters and boundaries within that. But
who's setting those?
I think it's like you said, it's the culture, it's the coaches, it's the parents. To me, if I'm going to get specific, it's the parents and the coaches are sitting there.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I hear you.
So
I hear you. We'll fight about that in a little bit.
But you have those boundaries that you're working within, and how that's maneuvered, it's different. It's not what was going on when you were playing. I mean, that's just.
So you're just outdating me, is what you're saying?
I'm not outdating you. I'm just saying the way in which it's manifested, the way it's implemented is different now.
I think I get what Hollis is saying, and I definitely get what you're saying, Coach Lee, and I believe that the culture of any organization starts from the top.
And the top is not a parent. Because
Not of the program. Not of the program.
Hollis makes me feel as though like the parent is supposed to have an active role in it.
I'm not saying what they're supposed to, but what I'm saying is that the reality is what it is now. Like, for example, when I play Little League football and basketball and things of that nature, moms, dad drop you off, they gone, they come pick you up, or they may come pick you up. Or if they're there, they go kicking it, they doing adults things. They ain't really watching you like that because they drop you off to the coaches. Now if we watch practices from Little League even to high school, parents are hovering. So I'm not telling you that's the way it's supposed to be, but I'm just telling you that's the reality of what's going on now.
But at the same time, I think there has to be a communication between the coaches and the parents, right? And I get what you're saying because you do see a lot of parents around the field and things like that. But even when we was growing up, we never had parents at like our high school practices or anything like that.
Definitely not.
But I mean, today today's a different day. I mean, gas is $3.50 right now, right? So if I drop you off, at practice, that means I gotta, unless I got errands to run. But other than that, I mean, I get what you're saying as far as, but for a lot of us, when you have that interaction with the parents, that's why you have parent meetings to give the rules and regulations that you as the coach set forth for the program. And it's the parents' job and ordeal to be able to abide by these rules and regulations, because this is the reason why some coaches get kids to come play with them and others don't. It's because it's something about that coach for that child that helps them get to where they need to go to. So they say right now, right?
Because clearly,
I mean, if I'm wrong,
no, I don't know if there's such a thing as wrong. I think people have said, "Oh, would you ever coach?" No, I would never coach again.
And I second that.
Yeah, I would never coach again because I don't have the ability to. There is no place for the parent for me in the coaching role.
See, that's
there is no place. My mom, my dad did not interrupt practice to talk. If there was a problem with football, basketball, track, it was me. Wasn't the coach. I wouldn't go. I got a grandson now. I would never, even if it was football, I would never go to the coach and tell the coach he said something wrong. Even if I know it's wrong, because it is not my right.
Again, I understand that. Now, again, that
do you?
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying.
In the last couple of shows,
here's what I'm saying.
I don't know if you have ever felt like you got it.
There's boundaries that need to be set, but what I'm saying is,
give me a boundary. Give me what
you just said. You don't necessarily like if a coach is disciplining and talking to your kid in an aggressive manner to try to get them to do or not do something, then that may not be a role for the parent to just always interject, right? But what I'm saying is that we cannot be idealistic and think that parents aren't going to get involved, because they are. So what I'm proposing is that the job of a coach now, you have to coach what you got on the field, strategies, you got to deal with all that, but you got to coach the parents now too.
Yes.
And you have to make room for that. So what I'm saying is, like, if you got a group of parents who are hovering, so if I got 10 parents who always at every practice, every game, then I need to find jobs for those 10 parents. So I need, you need to be the team mom. Look, you come here, I need some help with the equipment. Could you help the announcing? So you got to figure out how you can give them something to do, so that way they're not interfering with what you got to going on.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm outdated because that never happened anywhere in my life, okay? If a coach cussed me out, my dad is not even going to have that conversation when I get home. He's going to ask me, why did I get cussed out? Because clearly I done something. I don't feel like. Wait, I'm looking at you because I already know I gotta cut him out of that. So, youth sports. You got parents yelling and screaming at the kids. Kids don't even know. They don't even really know what to do. They don't really know what to do yet. Okay, they don't know if they're playing middle school football, high school football, college football, pro football. What would be the reason for youth sports? What would be the motive to have youth sports? What would we do that for? To me, it's to introduce the game in a way in which kids can understand certain types of discipline and rules and regulations that they follow, because we don't even know where they're going to go. We want them to be on time. Now, we know the control of that is by the parent, but we want them to say, Mom, I got to be there at such and such time. We want them to be on the field. We want them to run when it's time to run off the field. We can, those little things are things not just for their future in sports, but to me, I see it as the future in their life of understanding how to take orders.
I think that to answer some of that of what you have is there are still parents out there that don't question the coach.
I believe that.
Right.
I believe that.
And we can agree to that. I can agree to that. Yeah. I can say that I don't think I've ever questioned you or I've ever questioned the high school basketball coach about any decisions that they've made. I've always told my sons that you got to work harder, you got to keep going. What are you not doing? Right? And so, but then there are some parents that want to implement into their career, right? And so a lot of times you'll have some parents that'll come talk to you. Hey, coach, I wanted to ask you why my son's not playing a little bit harder. Or, he's not getting more minutes, things like that. And your response is, well, when he's in practice, X, Y, Z.
See, I'm good. I'm good with that type of conversation.
To answer the question, Little League games, middle school, high school is simply a showcase.
It is,
and I'm talking about in the parents' mind,
right?
Because we can say most parents probably aren't this aggressive, but we know the loudest voices always dominate the room. So a lot of parents are thinking this is simply a showcase because I've been paying this trainer $50, $60 a session to make sure my son's feet, hands, he can do all this stuff, right? I got YouTube, so I can look at this YouTube. I got the internet, Google. I can look at all this stuff, so I know what should be done. So because I know what should be done, you as a coach, your job is to simply put my baby in position where he can show off. And if he ain't showing off, it's your fault. I'm telling you, this is the thought pattern of a lot of parents.
Okay? My question is that okay? Is that okay?
No, it's not.
You think that's okay?
You hear it from the stands.
But is that okay?
I ain't saying. I'm saying it's reality. I'm not judging whether it's okay or not. I'm saying it's the reality.
Okay, but again, to me, if I'm the parent that's doing that, I have to assume everybody is listening and watching me act a straight up fool, right? And how does my kid feel when I'm the loudest voice out there?
You always gonna have a contingency of people,
but I think it's
with you.
Here's the problem. I think that people think that it's okay. Somewhere, somebody has to say that it's not okay. It's not even good for the kid.
But I think when they think they've done more research than you, they're more knowledgeable than you about this particular thing, then they're not looking at it whether it's okay or not. It's just that I know and he should know.
But that's the thing, I think. But the biggest thing, though, is that our kids are not being developed at a high rate neither.
And whose fault is that?
I think that boils down to the parents and the coaches as well.
I would disagree with that.
But you as a coach, that's your job, is to develop.
No, your job is to win.
But you can't win if you don't develop.
Let's not fool ourselves.
I see what you're going.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I do too.
However, this is the thing: you're not always going to win.
According to who?
to the realest sports persons that
but
you
are
know.
we talking about realist sports person when you have those 10 parents who understands the loudest of the whole stadium?
Well, then
that are influencing everyone else around.
But
them.
then,
some people are like looking at him and saying, "Look at those fools."
Some are,
Okay.
but some of them are saying like every other third thing they say. Well, you might have a point there.
But I mean, it just depends on the topic that you're given.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you have a good coach, a great coach that's going to put your child in the best position possible and is teaching your kids the fundamentals, but that's the thing is that, but here's the thing is that you're talking about people without any sports backgrounds, correct?
Those are the ones who are yelling.
I've heard coaches not like coaching on the field at the moment, but people with plethora years of coaching experience be those same people in the stands talking that ish. So it's like it's not immune to anyone.
And I'm not saying that's what it is, but then there comes a situation where, the parent is always, you got these YouTube clips, and I think what the kids need to realize is what they see on Instagram and what they see on Twitter is only a minute of clip, chopped and screwed. But they never show what someone does in the regular game.
But see, again, I just don't think when we're having these conversations, we're not living in the reality of what they're living in. For them,
I get
that
you're
is their
trying
reality.
I think that you are trying to find the reality, but my point of the topic for the show today is that if you're listening to this, sit back and ask yourself, what do you really know about the game? And look, you don't have to challenge me. I'm not coaching no more, okay? So you don't have to challenge me, okay? But 99.9% of the time, you are going to know less than the coach. Whether he threw a pass and it got intercepted, you wanted him to run. He ran the ball on 3rd and 4, you wanted him to throw. He faked the punt, you wanted him to punt it. He punted it, you wanted him to fake it. You know what I'm saying? You're sitting in the bleachers with no working knowledge, yelling and screaming for what?
But I think they do think that, and that's what I'm trying to say.
I get it.
Hear me, you don't.
What I'm
Hear
saying,
me that you don't.
But what I'm saying though is that if I'm this, and I'm taking it like this, if I'm mom, and I've been watching my son play since he's 5 years old, and now he's 15 years old. He a sophomore in high school. I've been watching football for 10 years. I've been watching this child play football for 10 years. That mom, that dad, grandma, whoever thinks they have a working knowledge, and they may have a working knowledge about just basic strategy and basic football etiquette and what have you. So they do think they have some knowledge about the game.
So I play Xavier over your son. You mad because you think your son is better than Xavier. I'm looking at it, and your son doesn't even really give me anything in practice. You're not at practice.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? But
that's the point.
But you show up game time and you got a problem. And again, to me, one of the major problems with sports fans as a whole, when things are good, it's great. When things are bad, you're horrible.
But again,
it's the same.
But again, I think that boils back down to your question about culture, and that's why I say the coach has to build that culture first and foremost. And I feel that when you come into this thing, as a coach, you have to have a plan of attack. And not only are you getting the kids to buy in, but you also have to get the parents to buy in too. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say, as being a coach, it starts with you. Right? Because you have to take away those unrealistic thoughts that your child is going to play Division I football at Michigan and say, well, listen, your child may be Division II at West Virginia State College, and that's nothing wrong with it, because the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to get a scholarship if that's what they want to do.
Right. And
that ain't the ultimate goal.
Yeah,
but what is
might be the I get exactly what you're saying. It for the most guys that are playing or women that's playing a sport, the goal is to get a college scholarship to pay for college, not play pro, but pay for college. I think that would be the idea. But everybody does not know that pathway. And a lot of parents, and the further back you go, the least the more that you will find parents have not gone to college, and so they don't know the avenue to get there.
But this is what I'm going to throw in your ear too. I want you to think about this. In those situations where the parents are making the loudest noise, right? How good is their child for real?
I'm glad.
Because those kids, because those kids that put the work in, that go and run their sprints or go and get their jump shots up, go and work on their handle and go and work in their game, it translates.
But see, I
it translates, and then you don't.
How do you disagree with that?
Because I think a lot of kids are putting in the same work, and I think that's where the lines get crossed with the parents, because they're looking at it like, I've done paid this young man or young woman to train my child for the last 5 years, and my child's still not on par. To your point, I just want to address this really quick. To your point, I don't think it's on the coach. I think it's on the community. If we're talking about truly changing the dynamics of what, like, this culture, it has to be a community thing. It has to be communal. And I think too many coaches have forgotten that, or they're not implementing that correctly.
No, I don't think coaches miss it. I think parents miss it because they're the ones who are leaving.
I think they're
the ones who are going out of the community.
You're not involved in the process. What I'm saying, specifically, football is the most communal sport probably in the world, because it takes on everybody. We're talking about cheerleaders, band, ROTC, concession, everybody. The whole community can literally get involved in this, and I think too many coaches put themselves on an island.
So let me ask you this question, Hollis. So since you say that it's the community, if you could think of any communities in the Kanawha Valley, Cabell County, all the way up the road, what, like, we'll say, for instance, who would you say has that you would say, okay, they have the community totally involved in it?
It's Coach Edwards. Bar none. And I play for Coach Edwards. I'm in the Hall of Fame at GW, and I'm not being biased, but again, it's different. I mean, we're talking about location, the logistics. It's a lot of things that go into that, but the community is involved in that thing. It's not just something where he just, but you know what I mean?
But he didn't, but he had to build that though, right?
He had to build it. He had room and grace to build it.
Right. But again, that comes back to the coach, the head coach. When you have that coaching plan and when you have that dynamic of, I want to go in and I want to win the community back. And I'm speaking of a fairly new head coach. Right. And I'm just saying what I would want to do if I was a head coach.
Right.
If I was put in that position, I want to talk to, I want to have the parent meeting. I want to have the player meeting. I want to get out in the community and put my face, and meet people. And, I want to be open to everybody.
But see,
however,
I think too many coaches are just like the parents. The coaches think because they have this advanced football knowledge, they know everything, so they cut themselves off from everything around the community.
There are some.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying too many coaches live in an island. So if I don't get the community involved, they're going to talk this and talk that, and it's going to be division. I mean, that's going to happen a little bit anyway, no matter if you Martinsburg and you win 1,000 championships.
We're gonna take a quick break here, but I'm gonna say this just as we go out on the break, so I can upset Hollis and we can come back in somewhere else. You said something about G-Dub, like all of this is kind of like and I know Stevie, like Stevie, respect him, played North-South game with him. The recruitment of, when you start talking about community, for every kid that a kid is getting recruited there, who's going to play.
I'm not alleging. Those are allegations.
I know. They're going to call it what you will. If you're so community-based, stay with your kids. Leave my kids alone. Okay? So with that being said, we'll give you a chance when you come back. We'll talk about that. All right, this is Let's Talk. We'll be right back in just a second.
Contact Carl Lee on email. Let's talk carllee@gmail.com or text 409-422-7539.
You're listening to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Email letstalk@promessage.com or call 304-342-8131. For more information, visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, we're back with Let's Talk, and I got Wade Murray and Hollis Lewis here, and we are in the midst of a good fight. I just want to make sure that Hollis is aware that the recruitment, okay?
Allegedly,
call it what you will, the recruitment of kids to G-Dub from a host of other places, okay? It's allowed. It's legal. So it's fair. So you don't even have to call it alleged. If you say it,
that's a negative connotation.
Yeah. What I'm making to you is don't talk to me about community. You can't talk to me about you cannot talk to me about community when your school is loading up on outside kids. Because win with your kids. And listen, for anybody who thinks I'm a horrible coach, I agree with you, all right? But let me just say this. I'm not going to recruit. When people started coming to me talking about, hey, coach, you need to start getting out there and start recruiting some of these kids. No. And because I didn't have it in me. I got recruited for college. I ain't recruiting a high school kid.
But I
and so I know, that's why I know my time is up. So that is what is happening. But for you to even act like GW is not recruiting and you have the audacity to say community is
okay, let me put it like this.
I'm going over here looking at Wade.
Hold on. You gotta let me defend that.
I am not interested in
you gotta let me
what
defend that. Okay, let me defend that because I would say this.
There is no defending that.
It is because number one, you get the community involved and that's going to attract people to that community.
Kids,
it's going to attract people.
Huh?
It's going to attract people.
Oh, okay. Because so you're going to take my kids and bring them and hug them like they're in your community. Oh, we love you. You live here. But when the game's over, they'll go home.
It's attracting people to something that
for
they
a benefit of the school
and for benefit of them. It can be if you do it right. Just like I wrote an article. I wrote an article.
It was. You know what I'm proud about?
It was beautiful.
It was really good. Beautiful. It had good English to it. It had it proved how smart you are. But the statements that you are making now do not reflect that.
Listen, if you have a plan and you're organized about what your intention,
recruiting kids that you need.
I'm talking about the kid. If you have a plan and your family has a plan and you're organized and you're intentional about why you're going to where you're going, it can work out for you. Yeah. And if you have a sustainable organism, that's going to attract people to that. If you're dysfunctional, if you're unorganized, and if you're not winning, people aren't going to be attracted to that.
That's true.
This is what it is now. We can't go back to the 90s and 80s. We're not there no more.
But that comes back down to, again, it comes back down to the coach.
I don't think
Think about this. Think about this, coach. Think about this, Hollis. How long has Coach Edwards and Coach Green been at GW?
For almost 30 years.
Okay.
I know Coach Edwards.
What's the next closest coach that's been at a high school in the Valley right now?
That's a good question. Not many.
Exactly. Because they've built, and like you said, those two coaches have built a program of not only winning, but
attractive.
But it's attractive. But think about this, though. When you walk into G-Dub's gym, you see every great player that's ever played at GW.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Every banner.
When you go, no. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing.
It's an honor. I had a guy. I won't mention his name because I haven't got permission. He's a great high school basketball player for South Charleston. Nowhere. You
Nowhere.
Even know he played in there.
Nowhere.
There's no honor.
I can help you with why that is.
But I'm just saying.
I know.
But I'm just saying, there's no honor. If you go to GW, we honor everybody who came through there and had an impact.
But listen,
so it makes you want to go back and get back. And you can say, if nothing else, I want my name on the wall, if nothing else. And a lot of schools don't honor their players.
But the piggyback off of that though. Even when you walk into South Charleston, right? Honestly, they don't even play any games there. The boys, high school basketball, right? But the girls do. But even still, when you walk in there, they as many championships as South Charleston has, they have them on the back wall walking into the auxiliary
And
gym.
that's what I'm saying about community.
And on the wall to go into the auditorium.
And to your point, here's what I'm saying.
But then, hold on one
okay.
second. But then in the foyer area, you have pictures of every last principal that's been at South Charleston on live display. No, but I'm just saying.
He's making the case that.
But I'm making the
should be
case
more
that if athletics is something that you pride yourself on, and again, it comes from the top, right? You have to make those adjustments, and you have to be aligned with the school as well.
But that's not just the coach. That's the coach maybe implementing the plan and the community buying in to it. That's what I'm just trying to say. So for me, when I look at a program like GW, it's truly a program because you're honored. Capital is rich as, and I'll let you go after this. As rich as Capital High School history is, because we're not just talking about Capital, right? You're talking about Charleston High. You're talking about Stonewall. You're talking about Garnet.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Capital. How don't you have a Hall of Fame honoring all those players? I'm friends with Billy Williams, I played quarterback in the 90s. He played quarterback in the 70s. We are like in a quasi sort of fraternity because of that. And just because of that, no other reason. And with that, other high schools that I've observed is that it's just a disconnect.
Okay, so this goes back to the conversation about giving credit where credit is due. The history of South Charleston High School, okay, and pitchers, and who gets pitchers, right? I'm in Minnesota, and I come back, and I go in the gym, and of course, the one pitcher that belonged in there is Robert Alexander,
Right.
because he was the greatest athlete that South Charleston High had ever had. And when I left, he was the only pitcher in there. I come back, there are 3, 4, 5 other pitchers in there. I'm not one of them. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. What is the criteria here? Criteria was supposedly you had to be all-state in 2 sports. I was all-state in football, and we won the state 4x4. So all of a sudden, you belong in there. Then it wasn't until Coach Walton got there did they even create the little showcase jersey and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't even there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like thinking, okay, and again, if it's high school, I was nowhere remotely close to maybe any of those players maybe in high school. Definitely not Robert. But I did qualify for what the requirement was to go in. But then if I did get to the NFL, maybe I ought to at least have a jersey or a picture. But the NFL guys that are from South Charleston, which there's quite a few there, it's this. It's no bigger than like 4 or 5 inches high. And
so let me ask you this question. So does that when we talk about accolades and Hall of Fames and things like that, we're talking about booster clubs, we're talking about, the athletic departments, things like that. Right.
Research.
So is that so to that question there, because, there are a lot of guys, that and I'll say this and to kind of, before I go to this next because it popped in later, St. Albans even has their Brett Nelson up there, their state championships and things like that. But another thing, Ricky, the head girls basketball coach there, Coach Rick, this year, he brought back at least 25 past female basketball players and honored them during a game.
And let's be clear. This point that we're making now is basically what the role is for the school as it celebrates its athletes.
Right.
It's kind of really where we've kind of drifted off to, right? Am I right?
But I want to get us back on.
Hold on. It's not about art. It's about building community through different mechanisms.
Right. And we're saying celebrating that athlete
is building a
is
community,
building
a program,
building a history.
and you build a program.
And build the culture of the program.
And you build a
And you
culture
build a
back.
culture.
But that comes back to the coach. Look at what Ricky is doing.
It's not just the coach.
But look what
I
he's
don't think
doing.
the coach has anything to do with it. I think that's
No,
administrative.
he do.
I think
No, he does.
The coach got
No,
something to do
he
with it.
does.
He does.
Because he was one, and I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn, but he was victimized. As a coach, girls wanting to go play there. But the thing about it was, when he got there, he brought girls. Well, not he brought them, but girls came to play basketball, right? And he was able to attract the community because they was like, most people gonna be like, well, why? These people. But he was able to engage the community at St. Albans. When I went to their girls' basketball games, there were more people in those girls' basketball games than there were some of the boys' basketball games.
Yeah, I mean,
And he honored those past players. But I'm just saying, when you give that honor, that builds the love of the program, and people want to give back.
It's common sense, and it's like Riverside. When you build a new stadium, why isn't it called Randy Moss Stadium? It's common sense that you would do things like this in order to attract your biggest and brightest stars back. If they come back, then the community comes back.
We've talked
and
about
then you
that.
get people on their side. But what I'm saying is that when we talk about coaches and coaches, what I'm saying, and back to my point, too many coaches are living on an island, and they're not thinking long term about how do I sufficiently build this. So what I'm saying is it creates contempt from everyone around them because they're looking at this like,
but that's some
why
coaches,
aren't we
though.
bigger? No, but I'm saying as a coach, you have to think that way now. Because even if it's a practical standpoint, forget history and everything. If I just need some dollars, if I need $10,000 to do X, Y, Z, and I know I done honored Jerry West, I done honored Eric Smelly, I done honored Carl Lee. They may help me out with that, even from a practical standpoint. So the same thing with GW. He not only honors our biggest and brightest, he honored if you made a significant contribution. You're on that wall, and that means something. So if Coach Edward called me and he needs something, I'm there. It's not even a question. You know what I'm saying? And I think too many coaches, we don't honor, and it's a way in which the community is not engaged.
So you are a part of G-Dub's Hall of Fame, correct?
Yeah.
And what was the criteria for you to get?
I don't know. Coach Edwards called me one day, said you in. I said okay. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea.
But again, the relationship that you and him have obviously is a solid one.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Now,
but even if it wasn't, if you say I'm in the Hall of Fame, it's solid now. It's cool. We all right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that does have some help. Now, again, I think where we've drifted into, it is about the recognition that a player deserves.
But I don't think we drifted anywhere. We're talking about culture. So this
we
is part
are.
of culture.
So we're showing we need to reflect.
Right.
We need to reflect culture.
Yeah.
We need to be able to say it. Now, because, and again, me as a coach, me coaching at South Charleston High School, again, when I can't get a player to do something, and I'm telling him that this ought to be what you do, and if I can't get them to do something, call it whatever you want, but I'll just use this word as the key word to make it worse. So the disrespect in not taking my advice on what to do in a drill or how to do this, right? Mm-hmm. Is that better if I'm on the wall? Is it better? Assuming that I became a coach, but I had been to the school before, the school has had me there, sports-wise, school-wise, whatever, to speak. Not just the picture in there that everybody walks by and don't pay any attention to it all day long. What would it take? What does it take to get that buy-in for those kids to say, hey, he played this, he did that? What does it take? Because
I think to a point, again, if you just got a kid who don't want to listen, okay, he may just be that type of kid. But to a larger point, like Wade and I are both in a fraternity, and I think at some point it's a legacy. It's a legacy thing, right? Because that kid who, like, I'm just using them just because that's what we've been talking about. That kid's going to GW. He's looking at this wall. He's looking at these things like, I want to be a part of this legacy. I want to be a part of that. So in order to, even if I ain't going to college, this is my last stop playing sports. I want to be a part of that legacy. I want to be a part of that. So that may drive him or her to do certain things, to listen to certain people, because at the end of the day, they want to be a part of that. I'm not saying that's the only contributing factor. I'm just saying as a cultural point, it is a point.
But I think in this area, though, I mean, when we talk about that, I mean, I think the thing is that, I mean, what are our kids really going, when you say in that instance he's going to DW, what are they really going for, right? Because here's the thing, is it's not I'm going to be on a wall of fame, or, I don't think any kid thinks like that right now.
You don't until you get there. When I got there, I didn't know none of them guys. But when Coach Edwards started putting them pictures on the wall, and I was like, well, who is that? Didn't this guy come back to the game and this guy come talk to you? Do you start to match faces with names? And you think to yourself, I'm part of something bigger than just
But a lot
me.
of things is I want to go play with my friends too.
Yes, and that may be your motivation. But when you get there, something else takes hold.
But then that boils back. But I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
But I'm saying
I'm thinking I want to play. I want to play in my community with my boys, regardless of a pitcher or whatever.
But here's the thing.
Motivated
Hold on.
different.
But here's the thing, Coach Lee,
Yeah.
and I get what you're saying. But let's look outside of. Let's just say let's look outside of our state. Think about some of the other states, like your Pennsylvanias, your New Jerseys, Ohio's. I mean, just think about it. Florida. I mean, the way sports is right now, the culture itself of high school, youth sports, things like that. Think about it now. You got some of the top players that go to some of these camps and they're performing their five-star recruits, things like that. You got other schools coming to get these kids for tuition to get them to the next level, like your IMG academies, right? Mount Verde, different places like that. And then it goes into, like if you get into Texas or Alabama, some of those football states. Now we're like, I want my son to go play at the 7 AAA quad A. You know what I'm saying? You know how many A's they got in Texas, right? So now you're like, is my son or daughter good enough to play at that level? But that's always going to be the aspect of it, and it starts at youth sports.
And okay, and
but at the same time,
all the way back around to youth sports. Who are we focusing on? Are we forced to focus on the child, or are we stuck in the dilemma of we got to deal with mom and dad as well?
But I think if you bring the credentials to the table,
no, that don't count.
Yeah, it does.
That don't
No.
count. That don't count. My credentials don't count.
But again, okay. But here's the thing. But your credentials may not carry the same weight that coach from G-Dubs do. You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about youth sports, though.
I get, but I'm saying is that when you have these programs, and I believe that you can develop a child at a young age to do certain things. Right, and to throw the ball, and football is starting to advance because now you see 6-year-olds throwing 40-yard bombs, right? So then it boils down to, okay, if I'm putting my kid on this team or that team, why this kid plays travel football or why this kid plays travel basketball instead of little league football, and you have some kids that because some states don't even play middle school football.
Here's the thing, though, I would be for almost disbanding youth sports because I don't think it. Again, I can't speak on other states because I don't know. But what I'm saying, I think that what we find in youth sports is we're not. It becomes all about winning, which winning is important. But I think if we're going to do it right, you have to section it off, and there has to be categories. There has to be, I think, in every youth sport, there has to be competitive and developmental.
Yes.
Right. So if we're going to do it right, There has to be a period where you have a strictly developmental fundamental, and there has to be competitive, and you don't move up until you're ready. So I think because we just focus on winning across the board, we lose that fundamental development. We lose the fun, F-U-N, in all of that because we're not sectioning it correctly, separating it correctly in order to have our kids advance and progress at a rate in which they will be able to develop steadily.
My argument, I agree with you in part. I think there is a place for youth sports because I think there is the reality of understanding, taking orders, doing what you're supposed to do, all of those kinds of things. I think that works for young kids. Winning and losing doesn't really impact them that much unless they get a little older.
Totally.
No, it doesn't. I can agree to that. Losing sometimes to some of these kids it means nothing to them.
You gotta learn how to lose.
Well,
but here's the thing:
you do have to
you
learn
have
how
to learn that.
But the other side of it is it's the dude on the other sideline who continuously keeps throwing the ball, passing or running the ball with their best guy, got their best guy still in the game. That's the guy who destroys the reality of what we're trying to do. This happens all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it has to be total. What I'm saying,
unfortunately, we can't find, no matter what we do, no matter what rules we've just passed some rules in the meetings this past week, about transferring and all that. And I had a conversation before I got here with a gentleman who was talking about he told his son, was in baseball. He was the last hitter. He was cleanup, and he was upset with it. Dad told him, said, look, just be the best cleanup. All right? So all's good. He goes in, plays well, so on and so forth. But on the other side of it, he doesn't believe that we should be telling the league should not be setting structure for the league itself. It ought to have some input through parents at the youth level. I said no, because we all know there's coaches who don't know football that's coaching youth football.
And definitely.
We know that, okay? And we
There's
know
guys
some
on the
that
middle
know
school
a little
level
bit.
too.
Yeah, and we got some who know a little bit, and then some who know enough. Okay, but even if they know enough, it's probably too much for the kid. So there's a space in there where when you know so much, it's over the kid's head. When you say, you got to make sure you chase the ball. Kid don't know what that means. Chase the ball. What do you mean? And just football terms that you use that you think are normal, they don't get it. So knowing that, what should we be doing? We should be taking time to teach them the disciplines inside of the game, the fundamentals of the game. It ain't about the score. It ain't about who won. It's not about a playoff and getting the championship trophy. It ain't really about any of that.
But if you develop the fundamentals the right way, you're going to win.
But it is about that.
I know it is, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be.
I'm saying it is about that, and it should be about that. However, that should be delayed just a bit until we can focus on this development and fundamentals. My personal opinion is that I think in order to have a structure that's going to be consistent and is going to have the authority over it, either the schools themselves has to run it or the county or the city that you're in has to run it. Where a couple counties, a couple schools or a couple cities get together and they're going to have an authority over it. Because too many times it's just focused on winning. Like you said, the best kids got the ball going around the end. And the coaches are just happy with championships instead of nobody's being developing. Even that kid who just got the ball and running, he don't know anything because he's just faster than everybody else.
The lineman just kind of stepping and just putting the hands out.
Yeah, so I think it has to be a time for fundamentals development. And then you move, and then you gradually move to the competitive side without losing the fun.
But see, here's the thing: is that everything that y'all are saying is absolutely correct, but it has to come from the people that's going to be coaching these things. And I say this because I'm trying to tell you, because here's the thing is, when I coach youth sports, and I've coached youth sports for over 12 years, I've always coached the fundamentals of it, even from the offensive line of getting in a three-point stance, being able to fire out, placements of hands. Basketball, defensive slides, being able to make the proper pass, being able to understand. And what happens is when you build on the fundamentals, once you can get a kid to dribble right hand, left hand, layup, and that's the most important thing that you don't get. But you don't get that. But here's the thing is, but listen, here's the thing. The reason why a lot of kids don't get that is because you just have a dad that just rolled over the couch, that has no idea but just volunteering their time. Right, you may not have certain things like that, but I've been able to be around some youth coaches that I've watched be able to help develop some of the biggest and brightest stars.
What I'm saying, though, is that no matter if you're doing that, like I know, I coached youth football for a year. I taught all those things. But at a point, you as a coach get consumed with winning because you're competitive.
No, you don't.
Hold on. No, you can't. No, every coach I've ever seen out there wants to win.
Of course.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that you need a governing body over the coaches to put the coaches in check. I'm talking about just at a youth level, because it doesn't matter if you're teaching all the fundamentals, you're trying to do it the right way. At a certain point, you're going to get consumed with winning, and that's just the nature of it.
Okay, let me just say this. To your point, well, there was, and you probably know this. You probably know this too. Like, so there was always this, like, if you're 30-0, the clock starts to run. Right?
Right.
So you start the clock and it's continuous. If you score, or if the other team scores, then you go back and start the clock. If you're 30-0, why are we even playing? Why, you know what I'm saying? But because empty your bench, okay? Empty your bench so that we can get some kids on the field.
Well, yeah.
For opportunity. But it's crazy because the score, it's not that hard to see when the game is out of reach, when the team is better. You don't have to wait to 30. You don't have to wait to 28. You can look at it and you can tell it.
But those are the times you bring the coaches on the field and we just start running. Because in my opinion, if we're playing if there's a youth league, there's 10 teams, and we're in a developmental league, everybody run the same plays, everybody run the same defense.
And I agree with that.
And we're going to run this so everybody get to know what they're doing. And if you're 30-0, then we can start working on fundamentals, and we can just start really, really coaching and getting in there in game live situations.
But I agree with that, and that's why I say I've as an AAU basketball coach, as a basketball coach in regular rec league, football, all of that. I coached against Docs at South Charleston when I may have not had 11 straight athletes, but I had about 4 or 5. I had Romeo Dunham. I had Mason Pinkett one year playing football for me, Javante, and I had a host of kids that just wanted to play. And we competed. Did we always win? No, we did. But at the same time, the fact of the matter was we were able to develop those kids to teach them how to properly hand the football off, teaching the offensive linemen to properly, step and block and open the holes and teach kids the holes. And it was not until I went to another program that I realized that some coaches don't teach that. I went to a program where the kids were in a 2-point stance and they didn't even know the difference between their 2-hole, their 1-hole. Because like you said, Coach, I just got the fastest kid going outside the.
Yeah.
But that only goes so far, because then once you've done that to that kid, now he's special. But you're not teaching him the fundamentals of how to take a handoff and hit the hole and things like that, right?
But again, if you're going from one program that teaches to another program that's not teaching it, there needs to be a governing body to ensure that we're all teaching these things, and everybody's got to get on board, or you can't coach.
Here's the other thing that's happened. You put the kid that's right at the weight limit, who is going to be a lineman. You can look at dad and he's going to be a lineman. But what do? You put him in the backfield, and you run the ball. And so now everybody's scared of him because he's so big.
That's funny.
What are you there? What did you just do? See what you show. Come,
But
oh,
I mean,
come on,
but I mean,
Hollis.
but I mean,
How are
if
you
it,
going to go there? How are you going to go?
but
there?
here's
He may be big, but a great athlete. So I don't think you limit him because of that.
No.
What I'm saying is if you're the biggest kid,
since I've been in youth football, every big kid, because listen, I go all the way back to Baby A.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, we put Baby A in the backfield when I was there, and he was good, but he don't like getting hit.
But he's a good athlete.
He's a great athlete, but he was going to be a lineman. He was going to be a better lineman. Come on. He is a
running
lineman.
back now.
He was a running back when I put him at running back. But that was at the high school level. But he's not a true running back.
But what I'm saying is that I'm not going to, if a kid is bigger, I'm not going to limit him. If he's a good athlete, fast, got football, and he's big, I'm not going to limit him because of that.
I'm making the case that I get with Baby A. I get that because he's truly a talented kid. Like, to be that big and be that athletic, that's super special. Like, I don't even know if he knows yet all that he's got. Okay? But when the weight limit is, say, 130, and you got your kid at 127, and you making sure he's making weight for the game in case somebody challenges it.
I don't have a problem with that. I think we
I don't
got
have
bigger
a problem
issues.
with that.
I do. Like,
Because and here's the thing is because I was a bigger kid growing up, and I was very athletic, but it wasn't the fact that, and I took whatever role that the coach gave me because that was just, I wanted to get on the field and play. But here's the thing is that if you want to just be in a place where you want to play and where you want to, help your team win most of the time. But, I mean, in that situation, I'm not going to limit a kid because he's bigger and he can, if he can run the ball and he can, or he can pass the ball or he can do this now.
No, but this is.
But if there's someone better.
This is not really about the kid. Okay? This is really not.
So I get what you're saying. It's about the winning aspect.
It's the winning part.
But, and here's the thing, though, to kind of tackle that. I mean, but you have some guys, right? I seen a post the other day. I don't, if you seen it on Facebook, Hollis, it said, it was like on the grassroots, and I don't know what I did with my phone, but it said, for those coaches that call themselves coach and have the best athletes and saying like you winning everything, but there's no development there, and you call yourself a coach because you have the most elite kids.
Right.
So now my thing is some guys that have 11 kids, that have, like, say for basketball, I get 5 of the best kids in the Valley and I just roll the ball out. But if I can't hone those kids in and teach them how to play together and teach them how to work off of each other and teach them how to work together, am I hindering them kids? And a lot of times you are. Give me 5 guys that want to work. That's me. That's me as a coach. Give me 5 guys that want to work.
Well, go ahead, Hollis.
I was just saying, like, I just don't. To me, none of that really matters. I just think at a youth level, you need a governing body that's going to ensure that we are following the rules and regulations. That we have a developmental league. Because here's what I think should happen, just in a nutshell: you need to have a developmental period, you need to have a competitive period, and you need to have a travel period. That's what I think the evolution of youth sports needs to be. Because in order to effectuate that, coaches aren't going to do it by themselves. You need a governing body to ensure those steps happen, and then you can go off to middle school and whatnot.
Well, what do you do with the coaches? Like, if the coach is not doing it, what do you do?
You're fired. You're done. If you're not, you're done. You're fired.
The challenge to that, as we wrap up here, the challenge with that to me is that finding that next guy.
And you're volunteering.
Yeah, and you're volunteering. It's tough to fire somebody that's volunteering because somebody's offered to do that play that role for you.
I ain't never seen. There's been rarely situations where a team is not filled with a head coach. You'll have a head coach before you might not even have players. There's always going to be somebody that's going to win.
But I get what you're saying though, Hollis, as far as having the governing body. Because I've always said that about youth sports, and I know we got to wrap up, Coach Lee. And I think I've even mentioned that to you before. Like in the state of West Virginia, I mean, we don't really get to play each other too often. But I think if there was a governing body over top of the little leagues, and they could come together and say, hey, these are the rules and regulations, and these coaches have to take these classes to to be in a position. I don't think that's nothing wrong.
It's like
with
baseball. You go from T-ball to coach's pitch to kids' pitch. It's a progression that happens. Why aren't we doing that in other sports? It seems pretty simple to me. I don't know.
Me and you have some issues to work out. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. It was great debate.
Thank you.
Great debate. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Everybody out there that's listening to us, I hope you enjoyed it. Come back and let's talk about it again.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Contact Carl Lee on email, letstalkcarllee@gmail.com, or text 409-422-7539.